Okay, let's do sound check. Give me some noise, Chris.
Yo, yo, word up. Is that enough noise?
All right, I think it's good. Chat, see Farsight, Shredder, you guys are in already. Tell us if the sound is okay.
Did you play the intro yet? No.
Yeah, we're basically live, just waiting for sound check, but I think we're okay. All good's good. See Farsight's giving us the go ahead. We're a go.
Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for Warhammer 40k from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 179, and we are back from our hiatus, and we're here to talk about the new edition of Warhammer 40,000, 9th edition.
The hype train.
Woot,
It's currently full speed ahead.
For some people, there is some negativity online, but there always is.
I'm super on this train, by the way. I'm driving it.
Yeah, I think it's a. I don't want to say about time. I'm still enjoying 8th. You know, I have a couple mixed feelings about how this edition is coming and kind of what's going on around it. But I guess we'll get into that a bit later. Mm-hmm. So if you're tuning in for the first time, we have been off the air for a little while just due to family and work stuff with this current crisis. So it's good to be back, man.
Yeah. How are you holding up?
Pretty good. I'm fine.
Are you missing the game?
Oh, yeah. Like we were talking about this earlier, or I think it was you, like a long time ago. Like the aspect of the hobby that I do is the one that's the most hit right now, right?
Yeah.
Like I spend majority of my time preparing for tournaments, traveling to tournaments, playing in tournaments. That's, I don't know, I'm gonna throw a random number. 80% of my time is tournament play, and that's the part that's dried up.
Yep.
So. If you're like the guy that like spends 99% of his time painting, nothing really changed. Maybe you have more time to paint.
Yeah. But, have you done a lot of painting?
Building. I've done a ton of building.
Like what? Another 200 orc boys?
Oh no, I built like over 200 Space Marine models.
Really?
Yeah, I built every Dark Angel model that was in my cupboard. Like every single one. Right. All my robed metal Marines, all my Primaris Marines, everything. All my bikes, all my Terminators, all my Deathwing. And I built them all, spray primed them black, and put them in like one of my closed cupboards because I have the shelves for non-painted models. I just put them under there. And yeah.
Never to be seen again.
Well, I'd like to play Dark Angels actually, or something. I also had some Ultramarine stuff, so.
All right. There we go. Yeah, I don't.
What about yourself?
I've not actually assembled hardly any models, but I've literally been painting Eldar jet bikers for like 3 months. This labor of love that is this freaking Seer Council is literally, oh man, it's been a real project that I've put so much time into, and so I'm still painting the same guys, like literally. Man.
Well, that's okay, man. It's that time where you don't need to be productive, and actually you'll probably benefit from just doing something you want to do. Nobody really has deadlines, so
yeah.
It's.
My biggest fear is that I'm gonna like do this and think it's really good and spend all this time and do these new techniques and everything on it, and at the end I'm gonna put it next to my old stuff and be like, it looks exactly the same quality.
I've had that happen to me as well. We can talk about that in a second, but I think we should introduce ourselves for those that are new to the show. So I'm your host, Chris, at CanHammer Chris on Twitter, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Darren, and because the chat always asks me, this is an Oregon Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. They always ask me what I'm drinking.
Oh, I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You're saying it's a Pinot Noir? Is that what it is? Noir?
Yeah.
I'm having a sparkling water because I don't consume calories after 8 p.m.
It was actually a perfect day for sparkling water because it's so freaking hot today. But yeah, I just had this wine open already, so I had to drink it. So, but it's nice though.
No, I'm not blaming you. But yeah, so I guess back onto painting is I've had the same thing happen, kind of a similar story. I don't know if I've told it before on the podcast, but way back in Fantasy 7th edition, I wanted to do something really nice. I wanted a really nice army. I had a few armies that were, kind of put together from scraps. I had just finished college. and I was kind of new in the workforce, and I really wanted to do like a really beautiful dwarf army. And I remember sitting down and doing like four colored highlights and blah 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 and going full tilt. And then I went to my tournament with it, and I got like the same, like just a slightly better paint score by like 1 or 2 points. And the amount of competitive, I guess you could say, the competitive compromise that I had to make to have like a nicer army that I wanted to. Like I wanted that certain color scheme of Slayers and orange, and
Yeah.
you guys have seen that evolve to my Fire Slayer shenanigans, but. And it was like a couple extra points, and that was when I was like, I don't need to paint good. I just need to get or paint well. But people think I'm serious. But anyway, so I totally feel you, and yeah, you might put it next and be like, yeah, they don't look better, but I feel like in the end, you'll have better brush control because of it. You'll have at least an idea of how to perfect your techniques, and maybe that's the one thing you're missing is how do you make it look better, like
Yeah.
pop.
So my
And
next
armies that pop aren't always painted nicer, right?
Yeah. My next project after these Eldar, that will take me the rest of the way through my hobby goal year is actually I'm going to buy a bust.
Oh, nice.
And
Which
paint,
one?
And paint a bust. I don't know. There's like a bajillion busts out there. I don't have any clue what all the scales mean. I don't want to paint something that's massive, but just something that appeals to me. I'm thinking something more realistic, but not like historical army or something like that. Like I don't want to paint some like fantasy like demon or something. But I want because I want to practice skin. I want to practice cloth, and I want to practice metal. So pick something, I don't know, something cool like that. So yeah, that's a goal.
Yeah, well, it's funny if you get into like the historical painting and like the bus, they make us miniature painters look like children because they're so nice. Some of the stuff. Weber sends me a nice picture of anything crazy he finds, like historical painted miniatures and stuff, and like some of the details on these watches and notebooks is like mind blowing. So
Dude,
good luck to you.
I've been watching this guy. He normally paints busts. Takes him, like 2 hours to paint like an eye. But he, as a thing, he showed one episode. It was basically a series of 9 videos of how to paint a space marine, an ultramarine, using nothing but GW paints and like no fancy techniques. And it's just like each episode was like, here's like one arm, and it was broke it up. Like here's the helm, and obviously it looked amazing afterwards. But I'm like, dude, that just took you 10 days to paint one guy. You're never gonna get an army done.
If you have no deadlines, you don't care. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's amazing though.
it is what it is. Yeah, I got some more stuff to paint, but it's a lot of my painting motivation is event based. So that's part of it as well, right? Is you're like, hey, I don't have any events, so why am I going to paint this guy? I don't even know if I'm going to use him. So
Yeah, I'm hoping this kind of motivation to improve my hobby technique doesn't take a backseat again when like playing kicks up again, Because right now there's nothing else to do, so I'm like, okay, let's spend a lot of time, painting this stupid helm. But it's like, yeah, I'm scared about that. But I did make that commitment to improve things about my hobby this year, so hopefully it'll still carry on.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to paint more and build more and stuff, but I think a lot of it's just like with the kids and stuff, building. So I find like building stuff is more you can take breaks from it. Like I can walk away mid build. Like I can literally be putting together a tank, and I could be like, I'm gone. I can just drop it, go. I can leave my super glue open; it won't dry out over an hour or two. Like the big, I don't know, they don't dry out. So you can literally walk away and nothing bond. But when I find when you're painting, you get disrupted. You're like, well, I was doing the green because I assembly line paint. I was doing the green, and I got halfway through, and I had like kind of a puddle of green, and then it's all dry. So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. I don't know if you have those problems. So.
Well, now that I use a wet palette, I don't get that anymore. But
I find if I leave it in the wet palette like for a couple hours, it really like kind of I don't know, separates. Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
well, it tends to do that. Like that's kind of what it's supposed to do. But you can always just mix it up again.
Yeah, you add more paint, but it's like
Yeah.
so. I do use a wet palette for some stuff, but
Yeah.
mainly detail work, but not like base coating. Cool. So I guess we'll move on to the new edition. So this was, I don't know if this was originally supposed to come out in July, but usually new editions drop sometime in June. For me, this is always like the hardest time of, I guess, my Warhammer 40,000 career, because usually the new edition drops in like July or June, and then I have to go to the ETC and either play the old edition or the new edition,
Yeah.
depending on how they vote. And so that's when I was talking about like, so I'm actually relieved almost. I'd rather go to the ETC and have all that,
Yeah.
switching edition, of course. But part of me is also like, oh, well, now I don't have to go with this janky. Like, we'll have a new edition.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to look for the brighter side, I guess.
Same with CCBB, right? Like normally we get it in like a month or 6 weeks before CCBB, and then we have that always awkward conversation of which edition. Obviously, you got to play the new one, and then it's like nobody knows what's going on. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it was obviously delayed by COVID because they've really squeezed their next 3 books in, and the rumors are mid-July that it's coming out, and normally they would release around June time. So I think they're trying to catch up just that little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, it was really interesting too. Is they started with something that they've never really done. Is they hired a studio to do like a full on animated trailer for the new edition, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously it showed. Well, the interesting part is it starts off with Imperial Guardsmen fighting Necrons. And you're like, if you've been watching the leaks, Necrons are, I think, prevalent in this edition. Last edition was Chaos, right? They kind of in eighth edition they expanded the way that Chaos interacted with the Imperium, and they expanded like some of the Chaos space and split the Imperium and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's probably going to be the same thing, but they're going to progress the Necron kind of incursion is how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that guardsman getting like Gauss flayed.
Yeah, and the head melts. It just turns into like a skull. Oh yeah, it was really well done.
Like felt
Didn't
that
look cheesy at all.
viscerally.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
And then the interesting thing was Sisters of Battle.
I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's not. They've always been there. They've always been in the background. Adeptus Sororitas. They've always been there, but they've always kind of had that like taboo element of like, we don't really want to use these like half naked girls, like scrolls covering their nipples and blah blah blah. We don't want to use these as like our poster child. But I think with the new release, they really toned down the sexuality. We'll go with that term.
They just look like Marines with slightly larger chest plates and
Yeah.
girl heads.
Yeah, and so it was kind of interesting that Sisters of Battle comes in and starts basically destroying Necrons like they're nothing, which is really anti. It's not how the game works at all, but it was cool. and so the sisters are there, just going nuts, killing them left, right, and center, and then she gets shot, goes in, does a litany. Her arm doesn't, disintegrate, and then.
And then
What's that? What's
crazy
the big
like four-legged Necron comes in with a big ass like sword, and they start whacking at each other, which is pretty cool.
Yep, and they chose that time to essentially show us their assault intercessors
The new
because
chainsword.
there was no bolters to be seen. It was just chainswords and coming
Chainswords
in
everywhere.
and fighting, and sisters stabbing Necrons, and so it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. It kind of showed the way it's moving, and I hope that video, was not just done that way to look cool, was done that way with some hidden messaging, as in like maybe Assault will be back, which is I think we'll get to later. It's also showing, the female warriors, the Space Marines. There was a wicked meme I saw. It's like that Family Guy meme where Lois is giving, I don't know who she's giving in the cartoon, I can't remember, but it's like Stewie's birthday and he's getting a cake and she's giving the other cake to like someone else, being like, here's your participation cake as well, or something like that. And so the meme was, it was like the Warhammer logo on Lois's head, the Necron face on Stewie's head, and then like a Space Marine. And it was like, here's your you need to be included in all releases cake.
I mean, it definitely hints at the first few books. So Necrons, Space Marines, probably with the starter set, probably Sisters soon. They've already said Death Watch will be very soon. And then
are you sure that's the way they're doing it? I thought Space Marines just came out. They wouldn't be new.
Well, they didn't just come out, actually. They came out before Christmas. Well before Christmas.
Yeah, but there's no need for a new Space Marine book.
Well, everybody's getting a new book, and it's a new edition, and you're getting new models in that starter box, so who knows?
I don't know. I think...
You need rules to play those new models.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like a White Dwarf thing or a box set thing or an app thing. I don't think that's going to be a new book.
Maybe. It'll be cool if they release some of these rules just on the app and they don't release a new book with it. That would be interesting.
The Sisters and Marines are like the last two books, essentially, right? So And then
So
Necrons will be the
they did
first.
hint heavily that Death Watch was going to be one of the sooner releases because they got asked that directly. And then, of course, they also hinted that the Forge World rewrite was coming soon after ninth release. So hopefully we'll start to see those early too.
Yeah, that went well last edition. Oh, wow. Okay, so that was it for the video. Any takeaways from that, or?
No, I thought it was cool. There's a lot. Actually, there's way more like naysayers this time than there was like before seventh went to eight. Maybe because seventh at the end of it was so shit. But I think it's cool, and I'm super excited. And change is good. Especially if it's good change and it cleans some stuff up. Then yeah.
The one thing that did kind of worry me, both not the video, but not worry me, but like the Necrons aren't really something that it interests me. And the sisters aesthetically in that video, the way that they were portrayed, to me it was like it didn't feel. I almost wish they would have like used like a fun like Eldar or something, right? Like a fundamental 40k race or orcs or something. But maybe that's just me. But it was cool that it was different, and I'm excited for the Necron players, obviously. So
yeah, so they obviously leaked this, picture of the battlefield that they've set up with all the new models. The Silent King model, this like crazy tall walker, it looks like a new Satan model, the new warriors obviously that they leaked. So that's gonna be a lot of shit coming out for Necrons.
yeah, well, even Space Marines, right? They're getting Blade Guard veterans, which were in the video with the Storm Shield, as we said earlier. Assaults intercessors, because regular intercessors weren't good enough and numerous enough.
They leaked the bikes shortly after that.
Yeah, I forget what the bike's name is, but yeah, they're Outriders. That's it. Yeah, and they're essentially like giant, a combination of like the old Marine bikes and like Batman bike.
Yeah, they did remind me of that Batman bike. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was neat, and they look cool. But you need Primaris bikes, so
yeah. And you wonder then, because they are going to keep legending things, whether eventually the Little Marines will get legended, because now they have covered all of the different forms of Little Marines.
So, like, if this edition the Little Marines get legended, then next edition they can just drop the Primaris off all the units, and now we're talking.
Okay.
You don't think so? It'd just be intercessors.
Whatever. Yeah. Just the name. That's true.
I hate it.
I don't think anybody really calls them Primaris anyway, but yeah, it's true. To be honest, I haven't seen a Little Marine in a long time, except for Smash Captains.
Oh, Devastators. You see Devastators still.
Rarely.
All the time. Dominic ran them at the tournament. Like, yeah, I think every army has grav cannons, Devastators. Really? You haven't seen any?
Not for a long time. I wasn't
Scouts.
At the last couple of
Still see Scouts.
Yeah, Scouts. Yeah, we see Scouts. Yeah.
I don't know. I've always seen Devastators. Like I think, but that's about it. You're right. One Devastator unit. So, and maybe some like characters and stuff to save a few points here and there.
Yeah, Centurions. I don't really consider them Little Marines.
They are technically, but yeah, you are correct. So I guess let's go through. So GW released a Q&A about ninth and things that are going on. So do you want to start taking that away?
Before we do that, we have to talk about the giant elephant in the room, which is 40K app.
Oh, that's not an elephant. That's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome.
If it's like the AOS one, it's going to be great.
It has to be good. But
so here's the best part about it. Like if it's like AOS, let's say, best part about AOS is I'm sitting at the table at Adepticon. I don't play a lot of AOS, but I do play it. And a guy across from me, I'm holding my phone up in front of me for those. And like, I'm looking at my phone and I go, the buddy's deploying. And I'm like, oh, what's that unit called? Oh, blah, blah, blah. I open up the app, click on it. Okay, that's what those do.
There it is.
Yeah. If you want to pay, if you want the items, if you want all the extra stuff, you have to pay. But being able to just pull it up, read the rule, like it's just so handy.
Yeah.
And like when you're sitting on the bus or you're on like at the airport or you're on your lunch break, pulling up units and just being able to double check wording on rules right away without having to have like a PDF, I think it's better for the company. And also when they release new models, right? They release these assault intercessors. Well, if there's nothing that goes with them, put them in the app. Done. Click on it. I have the rules. I don't need it. You can update your book.
Yeah, for sure. And they already said that if you buy the proper codex, you don't need to buy it again on the app, which unfortunately you do have to do for AOS, which is a little bit silly, but anyway.
They might change that eventually.
So that would be great, and there's going to be an army builder component to it. And
great, because then their points are correct. Oh, I use the GW app.
Yeah.
There's an error in my list. Well, it's a GW error, right? Like, great. The AOS one is so awesome.
Yeah.
And when the points get updated, they're updated right away in the app. when they change the units, they get updated right away in the app. So
Often
as
before the
long as
book
you're
comes
using the
out.
app, you're fine. Yeah,
Yeah, the app is usually updated before the book is actually released, so it's
it's
quite good because
definitely
then you can
great.
start messing around with things.
So yeah, I'm stoked for the app for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't think we have to talk about that too much more until we actually see it in action or have it on our little phones to play with. But I think it's going
My
to be
phone's
good.
pretty big, dude.
Yeah. And if they can include, obviously, access to any future FAQs and commentaries and all that shit right on the app, and those get updated automatically, that would be great too. Or like a
Yeah, if
search
it's like
feature.
the AOS one, it's gonna be amazing. And I can't I wouldn't understand why it wouldn't be.
Or maybe they don't even need FAQs and clarifications because they can just change the app. The wording.
You still need them for the paper copies. Yeah, released, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to the Q&A.
Okay, so Q&A. So the first thing they talked about, and let's just talk about the whole thing then, is terrain. Terrain rules. So I think it's going more AOS. I think they are going to. I don't necessarily say like you're going to have to roll randomly for it, but I think they're going
Well,
to
that
tell.
will be a component.
Yeah, they already said that they're going to tell you how much terrain that they recommend for certain size games. And so probably it's going to be like AOS, you need this many ruins, this many blah, blah, blah. They've said they're going to label the terrain with names, and the name comes with this rule. So obscuring, for example, blocks line of sight. Doesn't matter about windows, doors, whatever. So just making it almost like, I don't know if they're getting rid of true line of sight, like completely, when it comes to that terrain type specifically. I don't know. But that's interesting.
Yeah, you have to get rid of. So true line of sight only works if everybody models their models exactly like they are on the box, and people build their terrain appropriately for the models, right? Like if a model has a sword sticking straight up in the air and the guy's holding it, and you modify yours to be pointing straight forward, and Buddy has his pointing up, it's like an advantage, right? So yeah, you have to, like, I'm so glad about this. Like, you have to make some kind of generic rules because these models aren't posable, right?
Yeah. And so it's going to be very clear what each piece of terrain does. They say they're making it clearer and simpler, yet more complex at the same time. So they said there's going to be different degrees of cover, and they're going to change the way things go in and out of terrain, as well as going up and down. So they finally recognized that their three-dimensional game had basically two-dimensional rules, and that all these stupid things about can you charge somebody who's on the top floor, can a knight hit the guy on the top floor, like stupid stuff like that, even fly rules, the number of times they've tried to change the fly rule, hopefully all of those sort of, some would view gamey things, will go away, and we don't have to have different formats ruling things differently, which was always very hard to remember. So I think as TOs, it's going to be really nice to have a clean set of terrain rules, and that you can just label ahead of time. Look, here's our tables. These are these. These are these. These are these. That's it, right? That would be really good.
Yeah, sounds good.
The other interesting thing about terrain is specifically they thought that the terrain was going to improve assault army performance. So maybe in terms of density or in terms of the line of true, like the actual line of sight blocking, I'm not sure, or how units like that will go through or interact with the terrain. But that's interesting that the first thing when they asked him was how a horde armies and assault armies doing, and the first thing he mentioned was terrain. So
Yeah, and they might think that way, and it might be true, and it might not be true, right? So we'll see. If there's more line of sight blocking terrain in general, yeah, theoretically hordes would do better. But with the amount of shots on some units anyway, sometimes it's still better to hide behind a wall, pop out, and shoot, right? So
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
see.
The other thing about assault armies they mentioned in this question was, Overwatch is changing. They didn't
Good.
say how it's changing. How do you think they're going to change
I
Overwatch?
think they should get it the fuck out of the game.
Like no Overwatch? Well, they didn't say they're
I
getting
think
rid of Overwatch.
I thought I know they're not going to, but I think it just slows the game down for like nothing.
I also
Like it
I
does
also think they
damage,
should
but
get
it's
rid of
it's just
Overwatch.
random luck, and it slows the game down. It's just too much rolling for.
And it hardly
when
ever
it's-
does actually very much unless you're Tau.
Or when it does, right? You roll that 6 with a meltagun,
Yeah.
and you fucking kill that character. Like it is what it's like. It's stupid almost.
Yeah. I also feel like they need to get rid of Overwatch. But I didn't say they're getting rid of it.
No,
Maybe
they're
it's
not.
like no rerolls, so it's not as slow. I don't know. We'll see. And they also mentioned that there will be a new core stratagem that is going to interact somehow or penalize falling back.
Yeah, falling back's a weird one though, right? Because they're so like if you fall back, I could use a stratagem so that you can't charge me again.
Hmm.
Is that what they mean? You think?
I don't know. Actually, I never thought of that. I thought obvious things are you get to attack when they fall back, or you get to shoot when they fall back, or maybe
Yeah,
there's some
Overwatch is
mortals.
only when they maybe Overwatch is only when they fall back,
Uh huh.
or
Interesting.
maybe Overwatch for a stratagem. That's all wish listing, of course, but that'd be interesting.
Interesting. Hmm. Yeah. Or some people suggesting it's just going to be like a 4+ you can't fall back sort of thing.
I would hate that. I would rather it be like you do this and this is how I do it and you can take that chance. So like I could spend 1 CP, let's say, to shoot you when you fall back, or Overwatch when you fall back. I don't know, maybe it's just shoot them. And so you have to be like, well, do I have enough models left that I can handle that? Yes, I do it. Things that are like 4+, I win the game because I fall back or I don't, just I think adds a lot of randomness. That's not, it's already a very random game, and I think,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like that. I'd rather be like, you cannot fall back on a, I don't know.
Yeah. So the chat's saying bring back third edition sweeping advance. I didn't play third edition. What was this sweeping advance? I seem to recall something in seventh called sweeping advance, but
So yeah, in third edition, it was, I played a lot of it, and I can't remember. So if you were within 3 inches, you could engage the next unit, but they could not shoot you in their next shooting phase. If you were more than 3 inches away, you would roll 2d6, and if you engaged the next unit, they couldn't move. Obviously, they were engaged in combat, and you could fight them in their turn, but they got to shoot you in their shooting phase.
hmm.
So it was kind of like so like in third edition, a lot of the tactics was like line of guardsmen, and then 3.5 inches. Well, it'd be like 2.5 inches from the back of the base back. You'd have a second line, and that way the guy would charge you, kill them, consolidate in. You'd get to fight your next line, but they would still get to shoot, or you would
Jim
just be
Jim
sorry.
thinks it was a 2d6 move after fallback that included a charge and you could fight again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Except you could shoot. The other person could shoot them. But if you
Yeah.
were within 3, they couldn't shoot. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I think that's what I kind of was trying to say.
Yeah, I'm confusing it in my head with that rule in morale. If you failed morale, like the rest of your unit would die or something like that.
Oh, if they catch you, you'd roll 2. Yeah, run
Yeah,
away. No,
yeah,
no,
that runaway
no, no, no.
thing.
This was like, yeah. So if I was to charge you, hit you, kill you, wipe out your unit, I would then get to move 2d6 into the next line, and as long as you're over 3, you get to shoot me. Then we fight in your turn. So it was cool. It was like that in lots of games.
So we'll see. Maybe we'll see something like that come back. I don't know.
I doubt it, but
All
I
right.
currently like the consolidate mechanic of the current like the I like the consolidate in the way it is now. I don't like rolling as I keep saying, I don't like the super random stuff. As a shock attack player, I'm saying that, but it's if I know that you just move 3 inches after combat, I can then plan, be back far enough, you can't get to me, and then my thought, like I'm thinking about it. Whereas if it's 2d6 now, it's like, well, I could be like anywhere. It doesn't really matter, right? I want to be like 8, but
Yeah,
it's just not the same.
yeah, yeah,
You roll boxcars, and my game's over, right?
yeah. Okay, the next
Cool.
question was whether turn mechanics are changing, because some people thought that maybe we would go to alternating activations, but they confirmed that turn mechanics are not changing.
Great. I'm very happy about that. That was
Yeah.
actually a relief and a half. I'm not 100% a fan of the current turn mechanics. Don't get me wrong. Um, getting shot off the board turn 1. Well, if that's happening, it's usually a bad table or, something's not right. But I was pretty relieved to not have, like, do you know how slow it is to activate one unit at a time and go back and forth? That makes for a long game.
Yeah, I think it's because a lot of people thought that that Apocalypse was like a tester for ninth edition, and that in Apocalypse there is some alternating activation, but anyway, it didn't turn out to be the case.
Yeah, and then you need like an advantage if somebody has lots of more units or less units, and
Yeah, and of course Sigmar, there's alternate in combat anyway. There's alternating activation, but
yeah, well, it's like that too, kind of.
yeah.
Back to the church.
All right, the next point is reserves. They stated that more things will be able to be put into reserve, and that you just spend CP obviously for that, and that now they're bringing back things like Outflank, which still things like Space Wolves still have, but it's actually quite rare in the game. I think they're the only people to have it, or guard tanks. But actually, so now they're bringing back more tactical options in terms of where you come on.
Great. It's amazing. We needed that. There's so many games where if I could spend, I don't even care. Like, there's so many games where you're like, if I could even spend half my CP just to keep these 2 units or 3 units off the board, and sometimes you could in Deep Strike, but some units just didn't qualify for it. You're like, you wouldn't lose turn 1. You know what I mean? But I like it. Reserves are awesome. When you have a game where one guy gets to shoot all the stuff turn 1, you need to be able to hide your stuff you don't want killed.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and in real warfare, not that I really know, but in real warfare, right? Like, you're not going to have your tank just like sitting on the front line. It's going to be back from the front. I watch the History Channel. And then when you're attacked, it's going to move in a little bit later to the battle, but it's going to come in.
Secretly plays historicals.
Maybe not even secretly, but I have some historical stuff, yeah.
All right. Okay, we talked about terrain already, basically. So Blast is back. Blast weapons.
But it's not the same. It's going to be...
Yeah, so we're not talking pie plates, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I don't want
pie
templates.
plates. Oh my God. But that certain weapons, and they gave the example of Knight battle cannons, for example, will get more bonuses against hordes. So units with models over a certain number. So I guess that's good.
Yeah, more ways to kill orcs.
And then the follow-on question of that was, obviously, will there still be random number of shots on weapons? And Stu confirmed that there will still be random number of shots on weapons. So that's interesting.
It's better than templates. It isn't. Because with so that's the other thing, right? I like the random weapons because it stops all the arguing. But when templates were a thing, the better players got way less casualties, right? Because you were able to spread your guys out and play it that way. So it just adds that randomness. But
yeah, I just the mechanic of like this template and then trying to flip it and then flip it again, and
that didn't work at all.
That was just stupid. And then you have to do that like 20 times. It was just like stupid.
But I do appreciate that, things that maybe struggle against horde armies. Now you have a way to kill it. The model count is quite high, so it's fine for now, right? If the model count goes way down, this could be something that eliminates a lot of those bigger units, but we'll see how they use it. We won't know.
So there was a question about tanks, and tanks are getting better in that they'll be able to shoot. Now, it wasn't clear whether they'll be able to shoot what they're in combat with, shoot out of combat, like just keep shooting and not be bad touched by a Gretchen, or whether they will be able, like, it's not clear exactly how that will work, but tanks will not be bad touched anymore by, guardsmen. What do you think about that?
So, in isolation, it's really hard for me to give an opinion on that because it sounds horrible for things like there's times when I have deep struck in and surrounded like 3 or 4 Leaming Rusts or touch them, or even things like repulsors, maybe a bad example. You can surround them and lock them in if they're wounded. You just have to have a big horde of guys. And if he's able to shoot me, that means that my horde army or my troop heavy army is just gone. So that's the isolated look, right? Now, if you look at it, well, there's going to be a lot more terrain. Things are going to live a lot more, maybe. You're going to be able to hide your stuff better. It might be fine because, I can't lock you down, but your target choice is much less now. So it's okay.
Yeah. I think it takes a little bit away from the tacticalness of trying to bad touch something, because that can be quite tactical to get to that point, especially with pile-ins and consolidates and stuff like that. But
it also encourages poor play, right? Now I have no reason not to put all my Leaming Rusts in a line on the front line, edge to edge. What's the downside?
Yeah, just shoot.
I just shoot. Oh, I have to shoot the guy that's in me. Yeah, but they're all gone next turn, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, well, you need to take troops. I know you don't want them because you want all Leaming Rust right now, but you need troops because you need to screen, you need to board control, you need to stop me from touching you.
Yeah.
So I am mixed. Yeah, I wasn't 100% like cool with that, but I'm trying to remove my own bias.
Yeah.
And are vehicles really that crappy right now that they needed to be fixed?
Did they need
I don't
that?
think so.
That's the question. Did they need that?
There's lots of tanks.
Yeah. And then fly tanks can still do it anyway, so
Well, if they can get away, right?
yeah.
Now you don't even have to move. So I could take my Land Raider, bad example because it's crap, or my two repulsors, and I can just like sit them on an objective and just be like, and I'm just using repulsors as an example because I have them, but
Yeah.
I have like 10 or something, right?
So the add-on to this was, of course, that monsters will be better. So
Good.
they thought about Tyranid monsters, obviously, but I guess other monsters that
Oh yeah,
can
Wraith
also be
Lords.
kind of bad touched. So they'll be better. Which
Well, not
people are
really. Most
excited about.
monsters can fight, right? So they're kind of bad touched, but they also fight.
Yeah. So that got people a little bit excited. Okay, the next big topic is missions. So for the preview, they got Mike Brandt on, who is now a GW employee apparently, and he announced that they have been working for Match Play anyway on new missions that they hope is going to be the new universal format.
Cool.
Thoughts on that, Chris?
Um,
No more ITC, ETC. Everybody plays the same thing.
so that's better in my opinion, until it's not, until it's boring. So if the missions are good, that's a good thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I like standardization personally. I found ITC for me personally was a little bit samey and a little bit, I'm not gonna say easy, but it was like, yeah, I found them a bit easy, I
You knew
guess,
what you
to
had
like,
to do, like every game. Like you knew what you had to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like when I lost, it was like a lot of the time I knew I was gonna lose just by doing the quick ITC. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I need this to go my way or I lose. Like, I need to get a kill more and kill like this turn period. But so that was a bit interesting. But and I always like the ETC missions. But personally, yeah, it'd be better to just play one mission style for the whole year. Then you're better at everything, and you don't have to change as much. And there's less gotcha moments. There's also less, I guess, abuse. Like, because the ETC missions are so different, like there's just different abuse on that tournament than there is at ITC
And
tournament.
they
So
have to run their own FAQ and
yeah.
like different rules and different interpretations. So it'd be nice to not have that.
And if these are GW, ideally everything. Ideally, we would just play straight GW. Period. GW, like no modifications.
Yeah.
Ideally, and then there would be no. I don't want to go to some like crappy looking website to get my rules. I want to just go to the GW website.
Yeah. So immediately after this, there was uproar about ITC disappearing, and so Reese had to put a post up on the TL forum that he has been intimately involved with Mike in all of this process, and that the ITC missions might be disappearing in favor of this new universal format, but ITC itself will still be like a ranking and point giving system.
Great. Yeah, that's just people being too quick.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty obvious they're working. Like that was
together.
obvious.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. Okay, great. Like, thanks guys for not paying attention. Okay.
They wrote a bunch of new missions for all the different ways to play, different missions for different game sizes and different table sizes. So they wrote a whole, I think half the book is going to be missions by the sounds of it. And of course, they have this new Crusade thing. What do you think of the Crusade thing? I don't think it's going to be competitive, but like, do you think that's interesting or not interesting?
It's pretty obvious. Like, I'm only going to play the tournament missions in the tournament format, the competitive missions. So I just skip all that other stuff. What do you think? I don't care. Like, to me, I'm like, oh, great, you wrote more. I didn't play any of the I don't think I played any of the like competitive missions.
Yeah.
Out of the book last edition.
Same with me.
And I played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games.
Yeah. They were very excited about these new missions, by the way. So I'm excited for them as long as they're going to.
That's the game. Yeah. Missions are the game. Good missions make it an addition, make a game. Bad missions don't make it. Like, they're like, the mission is what you actually do.
So
That's
assuming
the fun part of the game.
Nova is going to be using these missions then, at least. Probably LVO. Adepticon, I don't know. But ETC,
I doubt
don't know.
it. Adepticon does their own thing.
You think the WTC's been part of this conversation?
Yeah, we keep saying ETC. It's like we never.
I can't get used to it.
WTC. Even I can't get used to it for some stupid reason.
Have you heard any rumors in the grapevine that they were involved in this activity?
So I do know that a couple of people that are higher ups are within the playtesting group. Yada yada yada. So I assume yes.
Okay.
But WTC works on a vote system. So there'll probably be a vote. Do we continue with our old missions or do we go to the new missions?
Yeah.
And then it depends on what people vote for, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
they don't really do a lot of just like sweeping change. Mind you, maybe the old missions aren't compatible, so it's fine, right? But even the WTC missions are getting a bit dated now, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're kind of based on old Maelstrom and old Eternal War missions. So by definition, if those are disappearing, then their missions are now based on nothing.
Yeah, I believe. Oh my God, his name escapes me. He was at CanHammer team from the States. Former U.S. captain. Oh my God, Gagno. Gagno wrote those missions something like 4 or 5 years ago, I believe.
Which
So
missions?
the WTC missions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're a bit. I think he was. I'm pretty sure it was him I was talking to. He was saying like he even felt they were getting a bit dated. So, and he wrote them. So, or not the new ones. Like they've evolved, of course, but that style I think was his brainchild.
Okay. So the next bit was about Marines. Blah 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 blah. The new chain swords are apparently better chain swords.
Good, because chainswords are like meh right now, right? One extra attack, woohoo!
So you think they're going to be like extra AP, or what do you think?
I don't know. They showed a chainsword being like stabbed through like a Necron warrior by like a sister of battle, like no problem. So
No,
I
the
would hope
Marines
that
stabbed them. The Marines stabbed them.
there was a sister later on who's like sticking it through the guy on the ground.
Oh yeah, but the
Yeah.
guy's on the ground. You should be able to pile drive it in.
I don't know. He's still metal.
He's got
It's
ribs.
still a chainsaw.
He's
Like
got
I hit
ribs.
metal with my chainsaw, dude, and I know it's just an electric chainsaw, but it does not do much. It just, yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. So
Okay.
yeah, I think they got to be better. Like I really don't know. That's one of those things where they could make it like minus 900 gajillion Kachigalas, and you're like, oh, what the hell does that mean? Well, I don't know because I don't know what the game's like, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the next question was about big characters. Obviously, the Silent King is going to be coming out. We've already seen the model and the teasers.
looks awesome.
Yeah,
Looks
it looks
awesome.
pretty cool. It's got like the two little pylons beside it. It kind of looks like the dude from Bone Reapers, like
Yeah,
with like the four dudes around him.
that
So yeah,
style of like diorama base, whatever, is like really. I like it. I like it a lot
yeah.
for this game. They're
So
beautiful.
we
They
saw
they
that Sisters the St. Catherine thing, which is crazy.
love it so much. I wish it was playable in my list. It's
You
just
have one, I
not.
presume.
I do not have one. I didn't bother.
Okay, okay. And then they also answered that yes, there will be other major characters, but they obviously didn't spoil anything.
Yeah, a few of the Primarchs I assume are coming back. I would hope.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Field discussion. Okay, the next questioning was about Forge World, and so they did confirm that all Forge World is being rewritten by GW teams so that it can exist in the same ecosystem. So really, it's all GW, except that the models are either from GW or from Forge World, which would be nice if we get rid of all this Forge World shit. And then hopefully they will legend all the Forge World stuff that doesn't have models. Wishful thinking,
Yeah.
maybe.
That should have been. That shouldn't be a thing. Yeah, those should have never. I know why they did it, but that shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, and that this book, they did confirm before that this book is coming out shortly after the release of 9th edition, the complete Forge World range rewrite. So they pointed out things like Death Court of Krieg. Obviously, this affects Custodes a lot. Half our army is Forge World, but Elysians, all that stuff. But I really, really, really hope. I'm not actually too concerned about what the rules are going to be because I think they're going to be fairly consistent given so many different models. I really hope they get rid of the shit that has no models.
Yeah.
I really want them to do that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you cared so much about Custodes. Oh wait. Never mind.
Yeah. So the next questions were about books. So will all my old shit be usable? And the answer is yes, including
Until it's
Vigilus.
replaced.
Yeah, Vigilus, White Dwarf, all that shit is usable. Your PA, all that's usable until you get your new codex, which is going to take what it wants from all these other sources, and then all that shit is non-usable anymore. So
That's standard.
yeah. I think that's standard. I think people thought that new edition means is going to go index again for people who've only
Well, that was
lived
the
through
rumor.
7th to 8th, right? But yeah.
No, that was the legit rumor from pretty decent sources. I'll say was that it was a completely new game from scratch, right?
I never
And
got that.
that's a bit frustrating because of all the books and things.
Yeah.
That's what I was told. So might have been BS.
Yeah. It is BS, yeah.
Well, it is obviously now, right? Hindsight is 2020 and all that crap, right, Darren?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? You feel what I'm putting out there, bro?
No, I was told in January that that the stuff is all compatible.
I was told the opposite, so whatever.
All right.
Maybe I was being fucked with,
I
for
think
all
so.
you know,
I think so. You know, it's
which is
Christmas.
a
It's
real
for
thing.
children. Okay, the next thing was everybody auto hits on sixes.
Great.
You already do that anyway with your orcs, so
Yeah, but that was a thing that had to come in. Being able to not hit, it's kind of similar. Yeah, you just need it. It just needed to be that way. I definitely agree with that. Yeah,
yeah. If ones are auto fails, then I think six being auto hits is fair
exactly.
enough.
Or ones can't be auto fails. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, a bunch of stuff about Crusade. Okay, so then somebody was whining about Eldar Flyer meta, which was meta from a while ago. But so they have capped modifiers, +1, -1,
Great.
which I think is universally probably good.
Yeah, I
And
think
that
that's
kind of
amazing.
hooks in with this auto six to hit. But I think the modifier thing, when it was allowed to happen, and they were getting better at not allowing stacking of things, but still there was a lot of it, and I think getting rid of that is good.
Well, one rule like this replaces all the little FAQs. The only thing that I question is, let's say you get +4 to your save, and you get -2 to my save, or minus. Where am I getting at this?
Like, does ape? Yeah, I get what you're saying. Does it still count as +4, or does it just count as +1?
Yeah, yeah. That's what I would like to know is like how does that work?
Yeah, like
So
if you get a +1 from a save, and then you're in cover as well, or like I don't
yeah,
know.
so if you have +4 to your save, and then you're -1, I guess, because that's the only modifier, or maybe it's -2 AP, I guess, and you're +1 to your save. Does that count? But it's just a maximum +1 to your saving throw.
Yeah, they're gonna
That's
have
not,
to be pretty specific with examples, and I think they said
or
that.
maybe that's only to hit. Maybe it could be only to hit,
I don't
and
know.
then that's it. Like if this rule is only you're capped at +or -1 to hit, and then everything else stays the same, that could be fine as well.
This was in the discussion about Eldar Flyers, which can be like -3 to hit.
Which
However,
is to hit, yeah.
they didn't specify that the capping was just for to hit, but it was
But that's what the Eldar
during this
Flyers have
discussion.
used, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And modifiers to save. There's very few armies that do that. Like Guard, Astra Militarum do it, and
yeah.
who else really?
It's the odd +1 here and there, right?
Yeah,
You know,
+2 is very rare for a lot of factions.
yeah. So we'll see how that turns out. They did say that the new rules are going to be concise, but that there's a lot more wordage just on examples and illustrations to maybe give intent a little bit, which I think is great. A lot of games do that. For some reason, GW's really not done that as far as I've played. They don't give examples about how things work,
Oh yeah,
and so I think
fourth,
it'd be nice.
third, fourth, and fifth they did. Fifth they had lots of examples in the book.
Yeah. Attrition. So morale is going to become more useful. They always say that, but it never does. Armies with morale kind of mechanics are going to be more threatening, they said. And they're introducing something called combat attrition, and they didn't tell us what that is going to be like.
Isn't that what it is now? Attrition.
Well, right now, they thought that it was very binary. You either lose a bunch of models or your whole unit, or you're completely fine. So I think maybe it's some kind of middle ground where, depending on the number of you took, you lose X number more, or I don't know. Do you think they're going to introduce that AOS rule where if your unit is split at the end of the turn, half of it goes away? Because there's a lot of that in 40k, right? Oh, I still hold this objective because my unit is split across the board now.
Yeah, and that's fine if you can't pick models. So like even in AOS, that rule is totally fine, and it was designed to stop abuse. But I think there's 3 or 4 models in the game that can pick a model and kill them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that has an issue, that rule. If it's at the end of your turn, so as in like you do your turn, you kill my casualties, I take wherever, and then I have to move within coherency, that's a different thing altogether, right?
Yeah. I can't
Now,
think of-
combat attrition could be something like, well, one, they're like, well, assault, terrain will fix all the assault, and then we're going to add more combat things. But maybe if you lose combat, you're -1 leadership, or you're -1 to hit next turn. I don't know. It could be something like that, right? So those things that can't be killed, but they constantly lose, or I don't even know if that'll work. But
You know, I just had a crazy flashback of what I hope doesn't happen is an introduction of a table from like seventh with all the freaking tables.
Well, it depends how big it is.
Hopefully, no tables.
Yeah.
All right. They next confirmed that more units will be getting legended over time, and
Right.
that, that's just too bad. They
Clean up the
shouldn't.
game.
Yeah,
It
they
needs to be
shouldn't.
cleaned.
They shouldn't have models without rules or rules without models.
Or models that are so ugly, especially now. It's more important now than they used to be. Because what they used to do is they would take an existing kit and then they would create a new kit of that existing kit to replace it. Whereas now they don't do that anymore at all. They just create a new unit completely. So that's why they need to start legending things.
Yeah. Okay. Big change. CP generation. So it's gone from being detachment based, so battalion is 5, vanguard is 1, blah blah blah, to being army size based and maybe with influence from missions. So whatever, 2,000 points is 12 CP or whatever, and everybody starts with the same amount of CP at the beginning of the game. So you don't need to run a battalion to get your CP. What do you think about that, Chris?
Well, so I can't think a lot about that without seeing the force organization charts. Let's be honest, right? What if they went to like one chart now? Well, then this makes sense, right? So I don't know. I do like it. Some armies obviously could generate CP better than others. Some armies use CP more than others did. Certain units are only good because they're there for CP. So I think it's kind of neat. It gets rid of some of the little crappy unit spams and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. You can take more fun stuff, less BS. And yeah, I think it's just like some of those books, they accidentally wrote CP farms into them, and there's no recovering from that, right? Whereas if you just make it standardized, you can't accidentally write a CP farm into a book. Yeah. So I like it. I like it in the way it is now. I just don't know how, like, are we just, everybody gets a CAD now or something? Like, what are the detachments like? That's really what matters.
Oh, the old combined arms detachment. Oh,
that's it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They did mention that there will still be detachments and that you pay CP to take them. So they might say you have to take a battalion and you get your standard CP, and then if you want other detachments, then you pay CP. They certainly pointed out.
It's just doing the opposite, where you lose CP if you take some of the specialty battalions. That could be more interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to take extra heavy supports in a spearhead, you got to pay a CP for that, because they pointed out that obviously without battalions giving you CP, people may be disincentivized to take troops, but troops still have a purpose in many armies, not all armies, and who knows, you might have to take a battalion to get your standard CP, and then if you want the other shit, you got to pay CP for that.
Yeah, I guess just stop having detachments that allow you to take 5 HQs if you don't want people to take. If you want people to take troops, right? Just have troops in every detachment.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty easy. If you're like, we want people to take troops, just make troops mandatory. It's easy.
Yeah.
You don't need to incentivize them by buying things with CP and stuff like that. But.
Yeah. They're also that you will have to pay CP to bring in soup elements.
Great.
Which I think they should get rid of all soup personally, but yeah, I can see how this is a middle ground.
Yeah, make it so that there's like 3 ways you could do it, right? You could say you can't do it. You could make it where like the Marines are now. You can do it, but it's pointless and it hurts you. Or you could do it, kind of like it was before, where you just open it right up, right? So, this way it kind of seems like, well, unless it's really important, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, so you can see in your average, say, Imperial Soup Army that let's say you start with 18 CP for a 2,000 point game. Now you're spending 2 CP, one for a Vanguard, one for a Spearhead. Then you're spending 2 CP to bring in your other 2 Soup factions. So now you're down 4 CP already, and then you're buying relics and stuff. Like, you would basically end up starting with a similar number of CP than you had before. So I could see how CP usage could get way more expensive.
It might just be the same. It might just be the same mechanic, but backwards as we have now. So pointless. Might be a pointless change, but we don't know yet, obviously. So
yeah, So that's super cool. Obviously, as custodians, we love this change because we were specifically called out as the faction, the poster boy for this change. But well,
of course, because you'll have lots of CP because you'll have less models, right? You'll have one detachment because your stuff's so expensive.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, easy.
Okay, people asked, are power levels going away? They are not.
Why'd you ask that? Who cares either way?
And in
Who
fact, they will
cares either
be
way?
getting updated more often, apparently. Someone asked, are Mortal Wounds changing? And no, they are not changing. They are completely unchanged. Do you think
Yeah,
Mortal Wounds
I'm
needs to be
used.
changed?
So the mortal wound rule, no. Things that generate mortal wounds or certain psychic powers or things of that nature, yes.
Like, there's too
Right?
much
But
of it?
the actual rule of like just take a fucking wound is great.
Yeah,
I like it. Oh, I don't care that you have an invul. It's like, you can't put that guy with a storm shield in front of your whole army. He's dead. So
yeah,
I do like the mortal. Like I like having something that's just like I don't care what your invul save is. You're gone. I really like that.
yeah,
But if it's like, oh, I can cast smite 900 times and do, that's different, right? That's not good.
yeah. Other
So we'll
than
see how
Grey
it
Knights,
goes.
though, there seems to be less mortal wounding in 40k than AOS. Maybe that's just an impression. I don't know. I
Not
haven't played
less.
AOS in a while.
Well, they did comp it a lot harder in 40k, but in the beginning half of the edition, I was spamming Malefic Lords and stuff like that like
Oh, yeah,
crazy.
but that
Right?
was stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool though.
Malefic Lords, oh, God.
Yeah, I had like 9 of them. I think. I think I still do. Yeah,
You still do.
like 8. That's like 18 mortal wounds a turn.
Yeah, and now that's just Grey Knights. So there you go.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So you definitely need it.
Yeah. Okay, that was basically it. At the end, they asked the Stu and Pete Foley what they were most excited about, and they both said Terrain and Crusade. So that must mean they're really impressed with their terrain rules.
No, or they're just goofy and roll on 900 tables like AOS. And this one gives you +1 to your psychic powers, and this one gives you -1 to your boots, and this one gives you.
Yeah, I hope
So
it doesn't go so hardcore like the terrain in AOS.
you got to buy custom AOS terrain dice, or you go crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are a game changer, by the way. The terrain dice.
Getting those dice, yeah.
You can get them made pretty easily. You just put the table on them.
Yeah, I think, I hope it doesn't go like that.
Yeah, I don't want to get to the table and roll 10 dice for 10 terrain pieces, and then buddy's like moves I don't know what terrain piece this is, and blah 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 blah. And you're like, I don't really want to deal with this.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate rolling for terrain.
Do you think anything's going to happen to fortifications? I got asked this the other day.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, it's all speculation. I would hope that they're playable. I used to take a bunker not every game, but a lot of the games I took a bunker in 7th edition. And in 8th edition, I don't think I've ever played against terrain, like that much terrain.
No.
I took the Nurgle Forest trees, or the Nurgle tree, to one tournament when I ran 18 Obliterators.
I think that's the only, army terrain piece that I've seen other than, Devon's stupid, Sky Shield landing pad. Like the Gene Stealer drill, have you ever seen that? I don't think
Yeah,
I know
and
anybody
I've
that even owns that.
seen the Fortress of Redemption with orcs in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that once. But yeah, they have these really beautiful kits, and they're cool. And I did one up for my Eldar. It was like an Imperial bunker, but I made it super weathered, and I glued on moss and vine, just so it was this is with the Eldar, because it's it suited my basing, right? It's it was decrepit.
Yeah.
So the Eldar were kind of using it. It was on an old world. So, it added some character, something cool to do, a nice little project. But I don't know. I would like to see them.
Yeah.
But the problem with the terrain rules is when you bring your own terrain, it's like AOS, right?
Yeah.
Like AOS, the terrain sucked. So then they just made it free for every army.
Yeah.
And now everybody buys this terrain kit because it's free.
Yeah.
You put it in your army, and it's if I don't use it, it doesn't matter because it's free, or it's really good. It's so it depends how they do it, right? If they do, yeah, they could do that. Every army has a free terrain piece that they just bring, and you put it on the board. And then that just guarantee, if they did that, free points wise, it's a guaranteed terrain kit sale for every codex and every army.
Yeah, so the Custodes terrain would be this skull throne from the from AOS, just with
Sure.
painted gold.
Thank you. It's that's the kind of one train of thought, right? You make them crappy, make them free, or you make them really good, and then you pay points, and then some people buy them, some people don't, and if you make one that's maybe not that great, it's just not going to sell. So it's really hard for them, and I definitely get that. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna ask for questions from the stream. I've got questions here from the Discord. I'm gonna ask in a second. Do join
So
the
what
Discord.
is the Discord? Yeah, I was going to ask you.
The
What is
Discord
the
is
Discord?
right under your head. It is our CanHammer Discord. The link is right there. You can click it and join. And actually, it's a pretty booming place right now. And we're about to institute audio chats as well on a regular basis. That will be cool. And
I
so,
keep
yeah.
meaning to do that, man, whenever I'm building, to like get on there. But then I get into the Dresden Files, and I'm like, oh, I can't turn it off. Have you listened to the Dresden Files
No, I
on
haven't.
Audible?
No.
Oh my God, it's fantastic.
You know what? I find when I'm painting, actually, I like silence for whatever reason.
Well, even when you go for a walk, dude, or driving, the Dresden Files are
I
fantastic.
just don't have to drive that much anymore.
I don't drive at all.
live
I haven't
5
left my
minutes
house
from
in
work.
3 months, dude.
Well, no, I don't even mean that. I mean just normally, like I'm just 5 minutes drive from work. I don't get to sink into anything. Like Dresden Files. Hey, I'm gonna look that up. Is that just like a podcast or something?
No, it's an audiobook. It's
Okay.
a detective who's a wizard in Chicago. And I guess I have a lot of affinity for Chicago because I've been going there every year for 7 or 8 years now for Adepticon. So I definitely have a lot of love for Chicago and some of the landmarks and some of the things mentioned in the books. So, and it's just really good.
But
Yeah.
it's actual books. Like I could actually buy the books or ebooks.
Oh yeah, you could read them. Yeah, you could read them too. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they're not super long.
So is it sci-fi or is it like fantasy? Like you said,
Fantasy.
wizard
Yeah,
and
it's modern day fantasy. Yeah,
modern day fantasy. Interesting.
like he's in Chicago right now and he's a wizard.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
like the
it's
sound of this.
awesome. It's
Great.
I have coworkers because I'm like a tech, so there's a lot of that they love it, and they're not even into any of this stuff that we're into. They're just into books or something, right? And they love that series. So,
Yeah.
so sorry, that's a tangent. Let's go back to
Yeah.
the.
Well, I'm waiting for the next, Horse Heresy book to come out, Siege of Terra book. So,
Yeah, I'm actually 10 pages left in Path of the Seer, and then I was reading it on my deck right before the podcast, and then I'm going back to the Horse Heresy. So
like Siege of Terra series.
no, I'm like way.
Oh, you're way back.
I'm at like White Scars or something, right?
Okay. Okay.
So not way back. I'm like 50 books in or something, but I have
Yeah.
50 more to go.
And of course, they announced they're launching the new series of books that's going to be contemporary to what's going on in Ninth Edition. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I'll be interested in those. Just because I want to learn. Maybe I could fall in love with the Necrons again, because their fluff was always a bit lacking, and then their fluff got a little bit cheesy with the way that they did the dynasties and the characters of the kind of leaders, and so I'm hoping that they really develop that a lot more with the Satan and stuff. I could definitely get into that.
Did you read that little short story they posted with Illuminor Xeras and this
Not yet.
new patron? And
Not yet. The one on the community site. We're in
that's
the
right.
community.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I opened it up as much as possible after hours.
Yeah. All right. So questions from the Discord, because I see none in chat right now. With the changes to CP, what can we expect to see list building wise from other armies?
Well, who knows?
Like, I guess the sky's the limit, really. If you don't have to bring troops and you don't have to bring X,
So if
or you have to pay CP
armies right now that are elite armies that are starved for CP are going to get better, theoretically, right? This is take the salt shaker, throw it over your shoulder.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like things like knights. I don't need to take a battalion. I can just take my knights and I get all the CP and I can buy all my items. That's great. Things like custodians, as you mentioned. Now, armies that need lots of CPs, like orcs, they need like 18 CP. They fucking burn through them. And the reason they're able to do that is with the 3 battalions, they might get hurt a little bit. So certain maybe unfavorable items like that are going to get worse because of this. So I think if you look at an army that heavily relies on souping or lots of detachments and lots of CP to function, they're probably going to get worse. I would hope. And then the opposite will be true. So yeah, Gene Stealer Call, anything like that, like I'm trying to think, like some of the Space Marine builds, there's like 3 battalions, we have all these CPs, we can use all these strats.
Yeah, super
well, that's
strat
not really
heavy.
a thing anymore, right?
Yeah, what's interesting is initially I thought that most armies were going to be quite strat heavy after their Psychic Awakening, and some have been, yes, but some have been not as much.
It's just like how they write the rules and how it comes up, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like if the super shock attack, if Gretchen did not exist, the super shock attack gun. I'm talking orcs because that's what I know. The super shock attack gun would not be as good if Grotz didn't exist because there'd be no way to possibly take 3 battalions.
Yeah.
Maybe you could do a brigade and blah blah blah, but you'd have a lot of crap. But that would just not be as good because you would get like 2 turns out of it. It's still great. You still might take it. It's still cheap. It's still awesome. But it's just not going to have that extra turn, extra 2 turns. Plus bringing a boy unit back. Plus doing this. Plus doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I think
that's my take.
It's really hard to know right now what's going to happen, but obviously it's going to change the way people build their armies. All right.
Hope for the better.
Make your best guesses. Which armies will be the first 3 new codexes? Necrons. Space Marines, Necrons, Deathwatch.
I don't know. I feel Space Marines coming out right away feels dirty.
It has to.
It's too new. It's too new.
It has to.
It's too new. It'd be dirty. People would be pissed unless they did like what Flames like, where you could take your old codex in and you get like half off or something. It feels too dirty. A codex needs to be viable for like 2 years. It needs to be.
Okay.
You don't think so?
We'll see. I don't know.
I hope not. I just hope not. I'm going to say Necrons, Deathwatch, because it was spoiled.
Yeah.
Master Militarum.
Their PA is also the last to come out, so who knows?
Master Militarum.
Yeah, maybe Sisters. I mean, they're in the trailer. I don't know.
They're brand new. My sister book is like
Sisters was before Christmas.
Yeah, but that's brand new to me.
Yeah.
Like you have to think about it. Sisters came out, and then COVID hit in February. We've only had a couple months of that book.
Well, there's been books released that nobody has really played seriously yet, like Space Wolves and all that sort of stuff. So
exactly. So I hope they don't get replaced for a couple of years. I really do. I would understand people getting pissed off at that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Me personally, it is what it is, and I'll just hope it's in the app. And
yeah, we'll see. It could be the factions that didn't get a book, like Deathwatch, Harlequins, those guys. Inquisitors or whatever. Agents.
Harlequins don't need it. Yeah, I think Astra Militarum need it, and I think Necrons and Deathwatch need it.
Okay. Question from the chat before it goes off the screen. Do you think there's a balance that exists, or that there should exist, between rule set and points cost for models like a Land Raider? Is it healthy to see 3 Land Raiders on a table?
Well, right now, it's helpful because it means you're going to win the game. Against it. But I know what you mean. So I think what he's getting at is like, certain things are like there is 1 vault per planet. Well, why is there 3 then on this table?
Yeah.
These are super rare. They don't fit the fluff, and I think like that almost doesn't work out because you have to separate the game and the fluff. I think that's how I'm reading into his question. If he can elaborate, maybe. But if you like, I'm reading this Eldar book right now, and the brunt. This is a Latiok craft world, and the brunt of the combat is done by the Aspect Warriors. But in the game, that's just never going to be the case, right? Just because the way the book is kind of written in the variety of units, like you're not going to have all Aspect Warriors. So
yeah,
I think they just have to do it with points costs and abilities. And I think spamming was a real issue, and the rule of 3 really did fix that. I'm bad at. I love spamming. It's awesome, but I find it so enjoyable to see people rage sometimes. But I don't like it when they rage. But I love spamming shit. But I think they have to rate that with detachments, points costs, and things of that nature. You can't really like putting arbitrary limits on things won't ever work.
Yeah.
So,
Tex is just elaborating that Land Raiders cost a lot, so the utility goes down if you take multiple.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Like really, like a Land Raider's goal right now is probably to have a unit that you need to stay alive when you go second, that also needs to be up front, so it kind of absorbs a lot of damage before your unit jumps out, and then they jump out a couple of inches in front of it, so you gain that movement. But with the reserve mechanics, that's kind of a moot point.
They might be better because they can't get bad touched. Who knows?
Well, they still can. Like, it depends what if it's to deliver troops. I'm hoping it can't just drive through troops. So you're going to stop it, right?
Yeah,
We
but it
don't
can
really
still
know.
shoot though. It can still shoot.
Yeah, I don't care if your Land Raider shoots my unit as long as the Terminator's in it. I'm just Terminators aren't good, but you know what I'm saying. Aren't moving towards me, right? Sometimes that matters.
Jim refers to Chris Haynes as the spam king of Chicago.
Oh, it makes me. Oh, I don't know why we do it. It's actually so. This is how it happens. I come up with a spammy idea that I have no intention of actually doing.
And then Jason takes it all the way.
Then takes it all the way, and he goes, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna get an order of them." And it's
Jason's fault.
he kind of winds me up, but it's so good.
Jason and Will Paul.
Yeah, Will Paul's not as spammy as he used to be. He's mellowed out to take more cool shit. But Jason and I, when we get together, oh yeah, we're like, what's the best thing? Let's just take 10 of it. It's crazy. Like, no, yeah.
All right. Do you think there will be new keywords? Tank. Well, I guess they have vehicle, and horde.
I guess they'd have to, if blast is a keyword that affects horde.
But they
Horde
might just
have
say
to-
unit with models over 10 or whatever.
Or they could do that. Yeah, yeah. Either way, it'd be fine. Keywords are great because they could add an extra 10 keywords to every unit and they don't even have to use them. They have no effect, right? So they don't have to put them in the rules, and then they could write them in later, and if they don't, they don't. It's like they're at the bottom. Most data script, like most
Don't read that part.
at the space.
Yeah.
It's great. Well, I read it because when they removed infantry from Gazgul, I noticed that right away and almost lost it. No, I'm just kidding.
Tom, welcome, Tom Leighton.
Ooh,
It's
Mr.
like 3 a.m. over there.
Yeah, he doesn't sleep though.
He doesn't
so-
sleep. Yeah, he's got to be on the Honest Wargamer in a half an hour for early morning game or something.
So let's go back to the Discord questions.
All right, Discord. Do you think Games Workshop is going to pull in more rules and mechanics from AOS?
Then they're actually not that different right now. Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to think of what mechanics in AOS besides the double turn aren't in 40k that are really important. I guess wounds carrying over. So in AOS, I wouldn't, instead of the blast rule, actually this could be what the blast rule is. Because in AOS, let's say I shoot a weapon that does d6 damage into your unit of infantry, I kill d6 models. So maybe if you have the blast rule, you just kill models for the damage you cause. So that battle cannon, maybe it does 2d6 shots, wounds, and then it does d6, and so it might kill like 4 or 5 d6 guys.
Like the spillover for blast
Like
weapons.
the spillover. That could be what blast
That
rule.
actually is pretty cool. I do like that.
That might be what it is. That's one of the big differences between AOS and 40k. That the double
Spillover,
turn,
right? Yeah.
The no charging thing, like that in AOS, it doesn't matter if you charge with 10 units. You still alternate. Whereas in 40k, all the charges go first. I kind of like in 40k that all the charges go first, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what mechanics they would bring in.
That's a really interesting idea on the
But
blast being rolled
Yeah,
over.
I think that we might have just kind of had a little.
There we go.
See.
Called it here first. You heard it here first.
Oh yeah, I think it goes both ways. Actually, one that I would like to see, as I kind of allude to, is maybe every army's terrain piece is free and you just take it. You don't need a slot for it. Maybe that solves everything. Every Chaos player gets a Nurgle tree. Every Orc player gets a Mech Boy shop,
That voice shop.
whatever it's called. The thing that's crap because it has a restriction for every good thing it does. It doesn't work on half the stuff they really want it for.
All right.
Next question. Sorry.
If the new Forge World rules make Forge World models too good, and hopefully they won't, but probably there will be one or few things in there that are actually good, do you think we're still going to see Forge World bans?
It's hard to say. The only thing that really bans Forge World right now is the WTC.
WTC, yeah.
So
I don't think so. I don't think
depends.
you can justify it if GW writes the rules. That's like, okay, why don't we just ban the shock attack gun then?
Yeah, they could
It's
though.
written by the same people. So I don't think you can no longer separate it out like that now. Ban Forge.
So
World.
the
Now you're
issue
just
that a
banning
lot of people
models.
have, it's not a rules issue. It's an accessibility. It's a cost issue. This isn't me. I don't care. I'm actually one of the only captains pushing for Forge World in the WTC. But um, I think if GW had an official rules for them, it could possibly be that way. The only way I could see it happening for sure is if the Forge World was a section in the Codex book. So if, in your Custodes Codex book, there was halfway through, it said these are the Forge World
I
units.
think that's what's going to happen.
Well, if that happens, then yes, you're correct. It's going to be very hard for them to
Yeah, you can
justify
just
banning
ban
them.
off my codex. I
But,
think that's what's going to happen.
well,
I
that's what
completely
happened
think
now.
that's what's going to happen.
That's fine. But if it's like a separate, this is a Forge World book, and depending on how they word it, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Um,
Like, would define Forge World? Are we talking Titans? Are Titans in a different class? Can I take my big Eldar Titans?
well, it's
That's
about
the
points.
difference. Well, one is, but the Phantom's only like 1800, right, or something, 1600.
Well, try it out. Try it out. Okay, Necrons, Marines, Death Watch. Okay, anyway. What army will be the most changed with ninth?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Oh, no
It's hard
clue.
to tell now.
Necrons.
Yeah.
Necrons. They're going to get the best. Necrons are going to get the big boy treatment. So I'm going to say Necrons. They're going to get. They're getting 4 or 5 new units. They're probably going to be 50% of the book's going to be new. They're going to get the Primaris Space Marine treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Warriors look very similar, but they look like new kits.
Well, they are new kits, but
Yeah. They are new kits.
they're a
Sorry.
bit
Yeah.
beefier.
They look the same.
I don't like how the heads look. I think they look too childish still.
Yeah. So the Necrons might be completely new. Maybe there's Primaris Necrons. They were like, "Yo, bro, let's make bigger Necrons to match these Primaris Marines."
Well, they might eventually replace at least all the models that have to use those stupid little green rods.
I would hope. Yeah, if you don't paint your green rods, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta spray those things black and paint them,
Yeah.
or white, I guess.
So there's a question: the worst unit of 8th, and I think that actually Innes worked that out with his community voted battle for worst unit, and I believe it was I can't remember what it was now. It was like a Necron pylon or something. I don't know.
Oh, worst unit for 8th, like in our opinions, or in?
Yeah.
It's like mutilators are pretty terrible. They might be the worst unit in 8th. I don't think I've ever seen them on the board. I own one unit of them, and I believe I threw them in the garbage can. Yeah, I bought like a chaos lot, and I had a unit in them, and I think they went in the garbage can. So, actually,
I'm
I
not
hope.
even gonna try and answer that question. There's just too many units. But
Like, are we talking model wise? Are they like the ugliest model? Are we talking in game like worst?
yeah. Will the change in missions affect significantly ITC missions? Yeah. So I think we talked about
Oh
that
yeah,
already.
yeah.
What are
Kill.
your biggest concerns about the new edition?
I guess my concerns. I have a few. One of them
That's a
is
good question, by the way. That's a very good question.
very good. The first concern I have is that the app is going to have too big of a paywall on it. I find the AOS app very affordable, very
It's like
usable.
$1.29 a month or something.
That's for the points, and then it's maybe even more than that. I don't know, but it's like totally reasonable. It's justifiable. Like I spend like one day every year. I go through all my credit card bills and I look at all my subscription services for everything, Netflix, the whole family, and I list them out and I try to justify which ones to get rid of, just because death by subscription, I call it, which is the way society works. And that one is so cheap, I could never, even though I haven't played AOS in a couple months, I could never justify getting rid of it, because the value, if I use it one day, is well worth it. So I'm hoping that. The other thing is I know they're saying you can use all your books, just like they say, like, you can use all your old legacy models. I really, really hope that they're being sincere with that, and that we really can get some use out of our older books. Just
Now
because
that we have them all.
I think I just don't want to have a lot of backlash from a lot of people. So that does concern me, is that, they've done that in the past, right? Well, you can still use your old models. They're just in the legacy. Well, you can't really use them then, right? But so I really hope they're sincere about that. But other than that, like, I've gone through so many editions. I enjoy every one of them. And I make a point when I get into a new edition to just forget the old one. I try my best to just forget the rules, forget how it works.
Yeah.
And I don't dwell on that. And I just embrace the new game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my concerns are more around like monetary stuff. Like, we're going to get tons of cool kits. There might be some models that I really love that they might legend. But that doesn't really concern me because I'm kind of a collector as well. And I have so much stuff. But yeah, I really don't want to see a lot of backlash online and a lot of people raging.
I'm most concerned that it's not going to be too long before we get all the bloat back.
Oh, that's coming for sure.
Like, I know it's coming for sure. Eighth did, what, 2/3 of its life cycle relatively good? Maybe half?
Yeah, and then it went nuts.
And then it went kind of crazy, and then you had all the FAQs, and then chapter approved that kept overwriting each other, and then... So
Because what was it
I
that
just
came
hope
out before Psychic Awakening? Sorry, Darren. What came out before Psychic Awakening? There was 2 books. Blood of Ball or something? No.
like Marines. Wasn't the Marine
No.
Codex in there?
There was like another campaign supplement.
Oh, it's like all
besides
the Vigilus stuff, right?
Vigilus.
Yeah.
So the Vigilus was unnecessary.
And that just
100%.
went nowhere. Like, it just kind of stopped, and then...
It just, they like started it and stopped it. Like Psychic Awakening was great. That should have been spread out longer.
Yeah, and then like White Dwarf rules, and then like...
I don't mind those. They need to sell.
Here's a rule that you get from this board game, and then it's like, it's just like too much, right? And then, what's the FAQ on this? I don't know. There's only 400 sheets of paper I need to look through to find it, right? And it's not in the FAQ, it's in the errata, or the diner's commentary. Why are those all separated? Like,
but that's all done for the app. That's all gone.
So I'm really hoping that with the app, we're not going to get that at all.
But you get the rules bloat. You just don't have the downside of it. You get lots of rules, but they're corrected and kept up. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like that too.
That's my big concern. But otherwise, I'm super excited. I'm on the hype train. I'm looking forward to it. For me, it's going to be Psychic Awakening, and then very shortly after 9th edition, and then shortly after that, Forge World book. Like, I'm going to have a lot of stuff to look at over the next few months. So it's going to be sweet for me.
Yeah, and I found the Psychic Awakenings from a podcaster point of view boring to cover because it was just a ton of stratagems, very few rules. Like there was like maybe 3 units or 4 units, but it was like a lot of stuff that's like boring to cover. Like, like I buy this Psychic Awakening book for like this 1 page of rules. And it was like, you don't want to cover the rest of it. It's just 1 page. You know what I mean?
Did we actually cover any of them?
Yeah, we did a few. But it was because of that. It was like they're boring to cover. Yeah. Like there was nothing exciting about it. It was just like, here's more strats, but you're only going to use 2 of them. Here's more rules, but you're only going to use 2 of them. And it's like, I literally bought that book just for the shock attack gun. You know what I mean? Like I have a whole book where it was like, I want that strat, and I want that, and I want that. And that's all I want from this whole book.
Yeah. And now,
and like the rest of the stuff isn't even worth talking about.
Yeah, but like if we can get rid of this onto an app, that would be so good.
Agreed.
But yeah. So yeah, that's my big concern, and hopefully it won't happen.
Pretty good question.
And I think that is all the questions basically.
Good, because I'm getting tired. That was a lot of questions.
So yeah, shout out to everybody on stream for watching, and everybody who's going to be listening later on the podcast. And thanks for supporting and joining the Discord and chatting and interacting with us. It's why we do it, basically. And any other shout outs for you, Chris?
No, I'm good. I just, right now, just remember to support your local game store. They, it's like anything right now. Support what you love, right? People that are hurting right now, stores, if you can buy your paint from them or just do it. I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, shout out to Dan. He kept people taking over with stuff throughout this last 3 months and delivering stuff all over Eastern Ontario with his car. And so big shout out to Dan. He's keeping it going. So show the love back. He's opening up now a bit more. And there's still, unfortunately, he's kind of shafted by orders and stuff not coming in from various places, not just GW, but like the mail system is really overwhelmed right now.
Well, think about this. Think about this. So we ETC team canceled, or WTC team canceled all that jazz. Jason sent out the dice because he picked them up from the border. He mails the dice out. Jim in Vancouver gets his dice before me, 200 kilometers down the road.
There you go.
Yeah. Right? Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, and
But
Dan is also taking 3D printing orders. He actually has printed me a couple of little head busts to look at it, like in shadows on faces. So actually, it looks pretty cool. So he's actually got rights to print certain model lines as well from companies and stuff. So do check out his 3D printing stuff too, and you can buy that stuff too. Yeah, so I think that's about it. It's good to podcast again, actually.
Yeah, it feels good. Feels good. I need the break though, to be honest. Like, yeah, I was just getting there's just too much going on with work and
Did you play any tabletop simulator?
I do not. No, I played a lot of Dawn of War, and then I played a lot of Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, nice.
Yeah, yeah. Kieran and I get on there, and we get our kind of Kieran rage fix every so often. It's a lot of fun. I miss that guy, so it's really good to get on there and hear that. And we've been doing a lot of. We did a few WTC meetings here and there, and some good chats with those boys, and like Eric and Devin, and that gets you going. And you and I haven't really talked in about 2 weeks, so that's interesting.
Yeah, Tom wants to know which Dawn of War.
I have them all, and I'll play any of them.
Okay, because he has a group apparently.
Sick.
Group
Yeah,
of
Scari's really good at the Dark Eldar, so he likes Soulstorm. Dawn of War 2, Devin and I were playing a lot of The Last Stand, which is fun. But yeah, I think that's it. So have a good one.
All right, good night, guys.